Okay. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening to all. This is Dr. Matthews here at a different location, but I'm pleased to come live with you at this time so the Gavin Matthews show can go on. After today's event at the Magistrate Court, I want to have a few things to talk about tonight. And yes, to those who are now joining, would understand that the things I want to talk about tonight, one of them is there are three things, as a matter of fact. One of them more important to me that I must speak of first. Then I'm going to drift down to the other rest of two subject matters that I want to talk about tonight. So, good night to you from Guyana, to the Caribbean, the West Indies, and the diaspora. Welcome to you all this evening show, to the GMS Live. Dr. Matthews is in the house. Share the live. Share the live. Let one know that Dr. Matthews is in the house and I'm ready to have this conversation. Now, to those who were, just hold a minute for me, please. I'm trying to get this information correct, but it seems to me like I'm not having the information correct. There's one information actually stating that there's no parliament tomorrow, it was being postponed. And the other information is that I think it's false news. But I am going to still talk about the subject matter of tomorrow, but yet still I'm going to talk about what went on today at the High Court. Now, to those who are watching the live would have realized that, yeah, to those who would have realized today when I was at the High Court, I was there to cover an event pertaining to Mr. Winston Jordan being arraigned before the courts about, how should I put it over? Some sale of a plot of land, right? Some sale of a plot of land that, that he was involved in selling. So I want to get the record straight. To those who know Gavin Matthews, I do my research. Now, this is what I don't care what documents people bring and produce in the general public. To those who are looking and listening, listening, and comprehending at the same time, I want to educate you so you'll be able to understand what's going on. Now, if you elect me in 2015, the president, to Granger, there are something that you call, how should I put it over? I have executive powers, like most presidents of Guyana does. And then through the ministers, I give certain powers of the executive of my office. Mr. Trevor Ben of the Guyana Lands and Survey, there are powers given to his office of the executive for the sales of plots of lands that you call leased lands, for the lease, as a matter of fact, of plots of lands. Mr. Granger would have given his executive powers, some of that executive powers, on to Mr. Trevor Ben. So as the Minister of Finance would have already given or gained some of the executive powers down to him from the office or from the Ministry of the Presidency. And while I'm talking, this is how a democracy works. So, to those who are looking, I want you to understand what I'm talking about is how a democracy works. If to those who understand, when the minister gets up, signs any particular document, or have involved in the saying of a document, or monies being paid for a piece of land or property or building or what have you, it is part of his duty, his or her duty, to represent the ministry of the presidency in his actions. So, how can he be a dereliction to his office? Now, they're putting up all sorts of information that Mr. Jordan was involved in the sale of the plot of land. Ask yourself this, everybody. If the actions of Mr. Jordan was so illegal, why would it be documented? You got to think where the craziness is coming from. If Mr. Jordan's action does not represent the president, why would that be documented? Y'all get him a point? You know what? You know why there is documentation to every action? It is to show checks and balances. So, what is the evidence? What evidence are they talking about? The documentation of his duties as minister? One tends to wonder, where does the arrogance and the ignorance goes? Let me show you, for instance, what we're talking about. There is something is being peddled in the news media showing that information that he wasn't giving the duties, or he wasn't given the go ahead by cabinet, or this wasn't approved by cabinet. The people who are putting this information out in the news media or in the social media, they weren't part of the cabinet. They weren't a minister. They weren't. Their party wasn't in government then to say that he derelicated his duty. The president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana bestowed part of his executive upon Mr. Jordan to act in whichever way he feels comfortable. That is his position as president. That is his position. The minister of any government, even in Barjagdio's time, when Ronald Godrod stood up and said in Parliament, if he has to go back and do a phantom squad to cripple the problem of crime in Guyana, he will do it all over again. And he's the representative of the president, which is Barjagdio then. Barjagdio came on the news media after then and said that he approved with his minister, which was then Ronald Godraj, performance, which I see was deemed criminal because you hire groups outside of the Police Service Commission or of the Guyana Police Force to try to tackle the problems, and these were all phantom associates, men that were hired guns. And when the problem get overflowing, they can't handle it no more, they left it to the army and the police. The same institutions that they could have said all along that by constitution you have to go out there and kill the problem. No, it didn't happen that way. They went, they created a separate body like they wanted to do again. This time they weren't given the chance to do it by the same international community that put them there. They didn't give them a chance to do it. So here is the problem now. What is the problem when you give the minister his duties or her duties, and then you say that they're a dereliction of office or they misuse their office? In what way? The person who is supposed to charge is the president. But how can you charge the president? Because the Constitution says that you cannot charge him or her for any acts committed in or out of office. So he or she is immune as president or ex-president, right, Mr. Jagdeo, because you kind of wave that flag steady. So putting Mr. Winston Jordan before the court and getting the judge to slap $3 million bail on him does not work. Because at the end of the day, whatever you're charging him about, whether he had the mere fact that the actions was documented, the mere fact that the actions was documented, Mr. Jordan has the powers of the executive bestowed upon him to act in that capacity. So what are you charging him for? His own duties as minister given to him from the president? It would have been different if he had acquired a bribe or monies to act in such a capacity to so the other person at the other end can benefit. Then it would have been seen as a dereliction or abuse of office because he was taking bribe to sell that plot of land. And all these people who jumping up talking about, oh, that is not, the land is supposed to sell for the kind of money. Listen to me what the Constitution says about the president. Why y'all listen? The president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, chief executive. That's what he is, commander-in-chief and executive. Can instruct anybody within his ministries of his ministers to settle the price of land to his understanding, to whom he sees fit. So if you find somebody buy a piece of land, because you know why, it's the same thing with Pradoville. Remember? That's why the case never really come to benefit. It's the same thing with Pradoville. It is the same thing with Pradoville 1 and 2. The lands were bought beyond the market price or below market price. And what of his duty? And his duty was to carry out the duties of the executive. So even if he sell the prime real estate for less than the price of the market, that was the markup price that was allotted to them. How can you carry to court the executive to say that they shouldn't do this when he has all right to do that? Show your next instance. You know why they want to protest tomorrow? To make sure that the bill doesn't go to Parliament, because after that, the bill doesn't have to have a 2/3. You got to carry the bill and those who pass the bill to court to make sure that that 2/3 is being honored. The bill can be passed by a simple majority. That's the parliamentary rules. And the parliamentary rules give the president to choose the heads of those committees by his choice. He doesn't have to consult with any opposition leader. You see what I'm talking about? Because it's the executive. Everybody knows that the president is the executive of all the ministries. And he says what to be done in all those ministries. The ministers just carry out his duties. So them who jumping up and making a set of noise, it ain't making no sense. Now let me shift focus now to the APNU AFC. Now, I don't know who are hiding it, but I can't hide it. Today, we had a simple conversation between the leaders. And I say the leaders because Harman is still the opposition leader. And the opposition means combined parties with the AFC, which you call it their Partnership for National Unity, and the leader of the PNC. Now, Mr. Norton didn't stress on this part, but Mr. Harman stressed in the part when prompted by then a news media operator, which is Mr. Aubrey. I'm trying to pronounce his name properly, Dennis. What amazes me, Mr. Norton used his understanding that there's a difference between delegates of 1,700 and a population of 215,000 people. He used that to say that he was elected by the people to serve as opposition leader. So let me remind Mr. Harman that he wasn't elected to serve as opposition leader. The presidential candidate then of the party was Mr. David Granger. And when he gave up that position as opposition leader after the election, he gave Harman. So Mr. Harman was never elected. So the 250,000 people that you're talking about, that you say elected you, you know that's false. And the delegates that you're talking about, the 1,700 delegates that took part in the PNC elections, that you so well want to form to embarrass, that there's a difference from 1,700 people and 250,000. Yes, I'm pissed off about it. Those delegates are party representatives of constituencies that the PNC holds on to. So when you talk about the delegates, they are the ones who live in those constituencies that makes up those 250,000. They are the representatives of those constituencies, Mr. Hammond. Even to the constituency abroad in the diaspora that you so well want to formulate within your own sentence to insult people's intelligence. Number two, you talk about recall. Listen to me carefully. To those who doesn't know, there's a document that each party submits to Ghana Elections Commission before elections, either local or general elections. That document gives a list of 65 names that will be accepted in National Assembly in case that one party wins all the seats. Those 65 names under that constitutional motion tells you one can become opposition leader and one can become presidential candidate or president of the Cooperative Republic of Ghana. So if Mr. Harman thinks that people is out of time and out of shape and it doesn't understand what he's talking about, you need to get real. So the person that you're talking about recalling from the parliament or from the National Assembly, it is yourself, Mr. Harman. All you have to do is resign the position. Because to the People's National Congress, you're not a representative of them. You're not part of the, how should I put it over? The executive body of the People's National Congress. So I don't know what's the big deal. What are you holding on to? Fine, people don't want to talk about it because since that little event happened this afternoon outside of the magistrate court, nobody carried it. Everybody's bypassing the statement that he said. I covered it. It's right on my platform. I don't know if the other news agencies have finished editing it as yet as live, so everybody can hear what he has said. It was embarrassing. So it's very simple. Just resign your position. Because when you stay there now as opposition leader, it becomes a rift, like the guy was asking, Mr. Corbett was asking, don't you think it will cause a rift? And you say you don't see any rift. But you're telling, imagine you don't see any rift, but you're telling Guyanese that is the people who elected you as opposition leader, not the party. Because the party is 1,700 delegates, 1,700 of them. It's not them elect you. It's 250,000. That's what you said. So who are you representing then? You're representing the PNC, because if the delegates elect you, but you're in Parliament representing the PNC. So what's the difference? The people never elect you. You weren't running for president in 2020. It was David Granger who was running for president. His second term. It wasn't you. So what, you were never elected. I can tell you, like I normally tell the PPP, you were never duly elected. You were placed there. So don't get your thoughts twisted, because I'm not going to spare you on my show. What you uttered today in that press, in that press briefing to the press, was a complete insult to the intelligences of Guyanese. May I put aside my pride and tell you that you were installed, sir. You were never elected. So don't run about the place telling people that you were elected by 215,000 Guyanese, which is a total difference. Hold on. I want to take this call. Thank you very much for calling the GMS Live Voice of Democracy. Go ahead. Good night.
Matthews, the situation there with the opposition leader, that they're having two opposition leaders as far as I'm concerned. I think that was the right thing. I think the right thing to do, that Harman should have done, is to resign. Because the longer he stays there, the longer it's going to create a commotion.
Of course. You see the dunce trying to tell Guyana, hold on.
They will be heading there for that collusion.
The dunce done trying to tell you that he want to talk to Norton, he going to talk to Harman. Since when?
Well, he created that atmosphere. And of course, I get to understand, because that he announced prior to the election that he will step aside.
Hold on, wait.
Surprisingly,
hold on, wait. I wanna address my people who normally come into the show. On the screen, somebody saying, Gavin, why don't you focus on the PPP? You are causing confusion. I cannot agree with you on this. Fine. You understand? This show is about agree to disagree. But here was the problem. The problem is you have somebody who never won the Constitution. The Constitution that makes up the APNU AFC. There's a Constitution. You call it a Bill of Instructions. There's a law between the parties and the AFC. Says that the leader of the party of the most delegates, which is the PNC, becomes the leader of the opposition.
Opposition, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We had an election gone. Mr. Norton win by a landslide victory. Since when the piece of paper now get kicked through the door?
Yep.
And then hold on. Then you're going to say to us that the 1,700 delegates didn't elect you. Because that's what he said this afternoon. Remember now, I don't talk what people don't say. I got it from a program right now. You could go back. You could check it again. You can see when I went live, that was his conversation. It came out of his mouth. He said the 1,700 people didn't elect him. No, he said the 1,700 people. No, he said it's like he's trying to make a comparison. There's a difference between 215,000 and 1,700 delegates. But the thing is that the people that he's claiming that elected him never elected him because he wasn't running for president.
He's getting confused.
And this is a burning issue. He's trying to confuse us as a people. I know they felt a little upset when they saw me today, but I don't cover nobody. I don't sugarcoat it. Because when you remain there, you're causing confusion.
He promised to step aside. He made that promise. But now he's not fulfilling, he's going back against his own word. So that person who is saying that you're sowing problems there, they got to understand, they have to understand the situation and understand the issue first before it come about. Nobody is causing an issue on the outside. The person that is causing the issue is the person who's inside here in the party, which is Norman. And they will get a collusion course. You cannot have two captains in a ship. They're gonna collide. You're gonna go off course. So I think the best thing for him to do is to step aside. You understand? Step aside gracefully and work along with the opposition.
Of course. Unite behind the man who is now elected to the position.
Exactly.
Unite behind the man who is elected to the position.
Yeah, hanging along there longer than the time, you're going to create a collusion. It's going to bring a rift, and that is what the blogger should be worried about. Because the longer he stays there, there's going to be a problem when the time do come for him to step aside. So it's a sad situation, and
it is.
I think Corman should
But hold on, it's not only a sad situation between them, but look at it now. The de facto administration that has been installed is trying to move to strike out one section of the Natural Resources Act, which is Article 22 or Section 22, to implement their own. They want to subtract and implement. And it tells you plain that only the president shall choose the chairman for these committees, these independent committees. The law says the committee meets. The committee drafts a legislation or a bill or a framework to be sent to Parliament to say how much money they should take out to the Sovereign Wealth Fund or the Natural Resources Fund, to say where the money goes and how it is being spent. The Parliament meets, make that decision by a 2/3, sends that information to the Sovereign Wealth Fund committee that's overseas in order to access that account. So they want to change all of that. All the specific thing they want to change. So they could sit down now and take out 5, 6, 7, 8 billion US dollars. And without no accountability. Hold on, wait. I know you're calling because you wanted to talk, but I wanted to cover these points. You could imagine the Auditor General Office is not even summoned. Hello?
I'm hearing you before.
Okay.
I'm hearing you.
Okay. The Auditor General Office is not even summoned to audit the 9.5 billion US dollars that Exxon said to spend. And these boys coming for tell you that they got a right to spend the 1 billion. For this money that's spent. They can't even account for 9.5 billion. How we can trust them with $1 billion and more? Plus the one borrow more.
I think they're going to reach up. I think they're going to reach up with a roadblock. If Guyanese and put the road, if Guyanese and create that roadblock, I think over here going to create, here in New York going to create that roadblock, because if there is a memo sitting here in New York claiming that, well, it needs to third before access or they deliver money over, you understand me? They will have to explain when they don't do the nonsense there in Parliament. They will get a lot of explanation to give to get a tine out of that fund over here, because when they're done there, they get a second move, because they have to give some serious explanation, and the opposition also will be called in.
Because they are the hold on.
I don't think the money gonna hand over when they don't change things there in Guyana. They gonna send a memo down at the end, and money gonna start hand to them.
No, you don't really get my point. There are countries who have done this, and you know what? They end up down the wrong road, because you're giving power to one man. To one man who's the president. It doesn't work like that. So much power, so much wealth, so much money to one man. Before Winston Jordan resigned or stepped down as minister when Mr. Granger gave up the election. That was done to make sure.
I understand what you're saying.
To make sure accountability.
They want to control the funds. But remember, what are the rules and regulations before the funds being handed over?
No, they want them. They want them.
No, they won't want that. They're changing it down here. Well, then I think they also will have some great explanation to give down at this other end. Because money don't hand over, sir.
Why? I'll be honest with you. I don't.
These people over here is very serious.
I don't know what going on right now.
Because they're going to be two different information. Now, when they finish part that bill there in Parliament in Guyana, they will have to get a copy to send down to the reserve place here in New York. Now they will have to give an explanation. Now just passing the document down this end and money gonna start on those over. They will get some explanation to give here too. And I wish they get some serious roadblock before they get it. But that is the aim, to dismantle the first laws that take place there, how you should get the money and how you should not get the money. It's a problem for the PPP. They don't want that. They do not want that. You know, they want to trust me, Matthew, that money, that what they're hustling for that money, is for the money that they spend lavishly to their partners, them they want to make up back.
Let me be honest with you.
They're digging a hole to pull the next hole. They're going to keep doing that.
Let me be honest with you. It is to my understanding the elections is around the corner. It's very near. So they're trying to make sure that they gain enough money to do what they did the last time, to do what they're doing now. That's all. These people are not interested in.
Do you think that petition will go so easily, like that? You don't think that they're going to be a fight, a showdown? Well, that is the next point I wanted to raise.
The PPP can't handle a showdown.
Why?
They can't handle a fight either. They're weak. Even well, let me tell you something. These boys that we're talking about, they're weak. These boys weak, bad. These boys frightened no shadow, friend. These boys can't even stand up and hold a boxing.
They could have get a little stumble block there from the coalition. Why the coalition sit here in the court and allow a stay without them objecting against the state?
Listen to me carefully.
Hold
on.
Hold on.
Let me tell you. Let me.
And the others, and the coalition asked for stay, and the stay was refused.
Let me show you let me show you what is. They got something named grandstanding, friend. I don't like talk because me mouth in that on it's nice. Some people say it's dark things and me supposed to talk, but I still talk. I got something named grandstanding. And in politics, they got a grandstanding. They got a grandstand to make a show. I can show you, for instance, what's going on. There's a parliamentary rule that says if I want the bill to pass, 65 members has to be seated. Even if 30 or 31 of them vote nay, the bill is still passed because of a simple majority, but all 65 members were seated. That now shows a democratic process.
Yes.
Now, if the 31 or 32 members were not seated when this bill is passed, it shows that the process is undemocratic. And when you do that, it shows that you violate the United Nations Convention treaty that you signed on to. You understand what I mean? So you get the drift now. So them fancy grandstanding is what's get me vexed, because you know why? These people know the rules. They know the rules. You can't tell me you know them. You're studying, you're in Parliament how much years? You don't know the rules already. So we're telling me it's a grandstand, hold on. You going to Parliament to vote now? And you know, once you're seated, it shows that the National Assembly is seated with all 65 members. You understand what I mean? So
you legitimize the entire process as long as your presence is there. Just that's all it needs is your presence to be there, and bam, there it goes. Because when any complaint, any saying, boss, you were seated there, you were seated right there when the bill passed. You didn't have the majority, but you were part of the process.
Of course.
They cannot say no. You understand? They can't say no.
Because that shows when you're part of the process.
This afternoon, a member of Parliament there for the coalition confirmed it under the belt that they are going there and be seated in Parliament tomorrow.
Now, when they go there and be seated now, how confused us is that? I don't shouldn't say confusion. How confused us is that? Because you know why? They're there.
Yeah.
They're gone and they sit down.
These people are not acting. These people, those are the people that have been chosen by Granger there to put into the Parliament. These people are not looking at what the supporters, the majority of the supporters think. They think that they're the parliamentarian, we know what to do. We don't want to hear what you have to say. Say what you have to say. You finish, yes. We are the real politicians. We are the parliamentarians. You understand me? When you done hear what you have to hear, we know what we have to do. And that is how they're operating. That's why the PPP burying them at every step that they take. That they don't have the political space to maneuver. You understand me? Because they're refusing. They're refusing to do the things that's supposed to be done or make sense. You come in and crying to me after when you done go and register your presence in the process of the issue there, and then you coming back to me and telling me what the PPP and the PPP had much vote. I take a stick and run you up the road. In the first place, what were you doing there? You know it was wrong. You know you don't have a vote. We're going there for to make things look more legitimate.
Because that's what it's doing anyhow. That's what it's doing anyhow. If they do not turn up, it is better for me. Because it shows that you did not involve yourself in a process that is taking the wealth away from the country. It makes that process now undemocratic. There's no democracy with one side because they got a majority and the rest of parliamentarians are not there. That's not a democracy, and they know that.
They're not using that. They're not making use. They're not making use of the Parliament. Period. They're not making use. They're not taking advantage on situations. Period. You know, and that is the problem. And that is the problem. That is the problem that they that is creating their own demise.
Yeah.
So they will have to know what they're doing. They think listening to their people, listening to the supporters doesn't matter. They are the bosses and they do what they want. You understand? But one day, Guyanese is gonna wake up and send a there at the office there and you do what I send you there for do. Now, what you want to do, you want to do that? Trust me, your days are numbered because they're going to hold you accountable. One day, guy, he's going to meet that destination and straighten some of them who
By
think that well,
I never.
when I done be voted for and stuff, I don't have to listen to you.
By the way, though, I want to thank you very much for calling in because
Yeah, yeah, Matthew, thank you.
I
Yeah,
appreciate what you
thank you
do
for
from time to
allowing me.
time. Stay safe and
Yeah,
be
thank you.
careful.
Yeah, you too.
Uh, Now, I don't, I don't know about much persons. I don't know about much persons, but I am not waiting for one day for this to happen. I want it to happen now. This is my country. I stood up in line and voted for a party of my choice. I stood up and saw that my will was taken away by Order 60, by Claudette Singh, Wilkshire, and the rest of them. I saw that my will as a citizen of this country was taken away because now you're trying to tell me that my vote doesn't matter. It is based upon who wants to put who in power for their own political gains. So Guyanese doesn't have a will anymore. Now, all these things are playing out because we don't have a will and nobody's representing us. Same thing happened. The PNC voted for a leader of their choice, the delegates. Now the one who claimed to be opposition leader and part of the party, holding on to a post that doesn't even give support to the building that he's putting on it. The foundation don't give way. He's still holding on to it. Now, because of that, now, that's a major distraction. The de facto administration trying to pass a bill tomorrow so they can take our wealth away from us. We got people fighting and killing one another over millions of Ghana dollars. They're carrying away millions of US dollars, hundreds of millions of US dollars. That's what they're signing up to do without our permission. Now they're trying to say that civil society can make their own decisions itself. When the civil society was on that bill as a committee, the civil society committee to make choices to say what funds or how much money we can withdraw. So air fraud doesn't want to know that. He's putting chairman over those civil society committees that are involved. So suddenly civil society has no say because they're taking that power away from you. The power, which is the constitution, the will of the people, acts, and he'll even tell you that. Because he said on his show, fraud is fraud, and he's staring right at it. He look at himself in the mirror and he can see FRAUD. You know, I am sometimes I want to know where next do we go? Every single day you turn on the television, you turn on the radio, people are insulting your intelligence because you're not educated enough. You're not it's not that you're not educated, if you didn't read the sections that represents you. And because you're not knowledgeable of the fact, they take the advantage of you. You think half the stupidness is going on there with the dunce we got as a president of the opposition leader can happen in the US? The amount of lawsuits done slap on them, they resign with speed because jail time looking at them, but because these boys never went to jail. There's no promissory note that takes them to jail. Hmm. 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 Look, I sometimes I wish I can do much for the benefit of the people. I love my country. I would never regret voting for the APNU AFC. And if you ask me, I will do it all over again because it was an inclusive party in the governance under David Granger. But I cannot stand aside and hope that politicians change their ways. It cannot happen. They need to change. People, it is the same thing that you're seeing. People go to the polls, people vote for a change. You have to give them their change. They don't want you. There's nothing that you can say or do can change their minds. People already went and vote because they're tired. They're just simply tired of you writing letters and talking craziness. They're simply tired of seeing Mr. Jack Dio and Mr. Irfan Ali raping the country. It is sick, and it's downright. It's like what Mr. Norton says is a demon, and there's a differentiation, a definition for what demons are. They're complete evil. So let me. Good night. Thank you for calling the GMS Live, Voice of Democracy. Good night to you.
If the Parliament sit down and know what they're going, that they're against this bill, and they're going to sit down and be partakers of the people who are going to do something to rob us. Eh? The Bible got one say, the Bible says we cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and be partakers of the devil table. And if you go into the devil territory, it's a part of them. You got to support that, well, great to support the bill. This is what you're going to do. If you're against something, you wouldn't go.
Of course, because there's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can do with your presence to make a difference in the vote tomorrow. Because they don't have the resources to create another what's his name? That confident vote. What's his name again?
Charandas?
No, they don't have the resources to create 2 or 3 Charandases in the PPP.
Right.
I would understand if they had the votes from the PPP side to create 3 or 4 Charandas to make that bill don't pass through tomorrow. But everybody knows hundreds of millions of US dollars. It's not hundreds of millions of Canada dollars, hundreds of millions of US dollars.
US. And then you talking about how you're against it. Then you're going to talk about, yes, we got to go on this, we're going to strike, we're going to protest and all these kind of things. Eh? So the best you don't, if you go into a place, we're going to pass these things and make the thing legal. Eh? The road could, going for the road will make it illegal.
Here. This is what I want them to do.
It's not a part of the devil table, and you don't partake. That means it's a part of the devil. You just agree. You just get us along with your arm for say yes, but you just get us along there. The Bible says so. You can't be a partaker of the Lord's table, a partaker of the devil's table. We don't see devils them that you're going to meet there, but you still get us along with them.
You know. Let me be honest with you. Sometimes I just try to be.
Sick, Gavin. It's real sick.
Yeah, it's real sick. Sometimes I try to be a little bit more, lenient to see what things will happen. But you can't. You got to speak out. There's nothing the PPP offers Guyana now. Nothing. It is sheer tyranny, poverty, terror, obscene absurdity. All these things you could imagine. You got to have I don't like calling vice president a rat that sit down and scream at people and try to insult them and talk all kind of stupid things. And then we got another set of people who tends to want to walk walls in transport and still holy holies dance. No, it can't happen. These people got to know what's a revolution. They have to.
Exactly.
This is the only thing that brings them to their knees. The PPP, for the history of the PPP, shows that once you come out and protest, there's nothing that they can do, especially if you shut the place down. There's no business. Protest all the time. Protest all the time.
If you protest it can't make the PP. If you protest, you can't take the PP out of office and all this kind of thing. Yeah? So he just got in Parliament for say, well, you don't agree with it, never make them come out of office.
Because right now they're operating like if next 2025 is election indeed. That's how they're operating. That's how both of them are operating.
Exactly.
We can sit down, we can grandstand, we can showcase, and by the time 2025, we can see for the next election. That means that I have to sit down and wait another 5 years to see an illegal government that was never elected by the people, nor the will of the people. Sit down there for make decisions to me. No, they don't have time with Roper. They don't have time with representation of the People's Act. No, they don't have. What they want to do is repeal certain parts of Roper. That's what they're doing. That's their intentions.
But it's like the whole urban operating like because he already what people put in there 200 or much thousand votes. Yeah? Any 200 or something thousand would ever put urban as opposition.
He was never elected.
President.
He was never elected.
He was elected.
He was selected.
Like the installed government was put in.
He was selected by David Granger. He was never elected to the post of opposition leader. It was David Granger who was the presidential candidate and the front runner for the party. He resigned and gave him that position. It is the same thing.
And he talked about what people put, but he was.
It is the same thing. Just like how Granger resigned and give you the position, it is the same thing Harman got to do, resign and give Norton the position because he's on the list, the 65 members list, so he can adapt and go into Parliament to take up that position as opposition leader. Nobody got to tell me though.
We holding on it for. We holding on it. What point you want to prove?
I don't know, but what he needs to do is resign and unite behind Mr. Norton so they can make a difference. Because it's a new individual. They elect a new person to bring about new changes and get rid of the older ones. That's why they elected him, Mr. Harman. That's why they elected Aubrey Norton. They didn't elect Aubrey Norton because they think, no, they elected him to bring something new to the table. Everybody's tired of seeing you.
Exactly, David. There's a reason make you see we the out for the outside, making comments, we want who we want. Because we is the people, when general election come, we voted for who we want for the president, not who we want for the party leader and opposition leader. Who we want. And if this is can't clear up, I don't know when election come will happen because it's looking like you will be only wasting time. Because you want to say he just like Jack you them he won't give up power. He won't give up. The executive and the party just sit down and checking it. What's that a big fight for go there and for other concept for protest?
No.
Urban don't say the protesting can't put the people out of power. I don't come out there now to protest. And he gonna come out here no because Aubrey might got the crowd and come and daily the thing looking like if yes. And talking like if it's equal like if it's he running the show.
Look, You know, I
That's him.
wish
Look,
I wish
I get
others
it.
can
Like
go ahead, go ahead.
I get it. I get frustrated on with this thing. All the time you think I gonna when we hear the get the result with because when we say well it's action, we expect it to be for this one. We say well, all right, everybody have a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year and peace and love. Yeah, and then for the New Year, get serious with business with the people of this country. But like I don't know. I don't know. I watching this guy. Everybody want to be he fighting on the PP, and then Arman and them for the other side. They be the same thing. And then the people say, look, just point me down and look, you got a man in there. What them, the Congress, they vote for. And I say, we illegal. He does opposition illegal. And you're telling me, but we illegal. Because the Bible got the answer for all of them. The Bible says before you take the bath, touch your brother, you take it out to your right. So what we condemning the people for?
Look, I I got one principle. The PPP is illegal. They're de facto. They're an installed government. The other parties need to get themselves and
It's
act
truth.
together.
It's truth. We do that.
And
We do that.
things need to be more straight and serious, and we need to get our acts together. I want to thank you very much for calling, caller, because I need to make some other uh, comments before I close, because I want to close tonight is a little early because today was a hectic day. I got a little bit soaked in the rain, and you know it's not too well with me, but I need to
Yes,
wrap up. And
exactly. I was there too, and
I
I
know,
get a little soaked because I come for see good.
I know, I know
Not
you
see
were
not
out
a
there.
war, but to see forget for listen to proper representation. I forgot for hear man say that so 200 or something people vote for you. That
Uh,
when you have a blessed life.
yeah, thank you very much. Stay safe and be careful.
Ah, good.
Hmm.
Yeah, good.
Yes. So to those who are now joining us, I must say to you that my intention wasn't to come on tonight because of the the amount of rain that I took a little today out there trying to cover the event. But I wanted to come on tonight to set some records as the PPP has no good intentions for this country, not for its people but Guyanese in general. And we need to have vibrant men and women who are revolutionary and opposing to them in their actions and their demonic ways, to challenge them and to make sure that this country benefits not only from the oil revenue but from all economic ways. This is Gavin Matthews. I want to say thank you very much for calling. I don't know much about the protest tomorrow, but I'm going to be out there. I haven't heard a thing yet. I don't know what will be taking place, but I will be out there. So I want to say thank you to all those who've joined in. Good night. Stay safe. Be careful. Sanitize yourself. Wear a mask. You can still call me because sometimes I end the show and I get a phone call to say the protest is on, and I'll be able to, somehow or the other, I'll be able to notify you, or I will just put out a simple message on my Facebook or YouTube channel to let you know that it's on. So thank you very much. Stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, wear a mask. Don't forget the little ones you take into public places. This is Dr. Matthew saying good night. Cheerios for now.